versions able to counter jamming and create jamming resistance. Fritz X. I don't think so. One of the, and I don't know if it was the Fritz X or one of them, I think was a wire guided, glide bomb or powered bomb. But so I don't know, and obviously wire guided, and there's a long spooling wire out. So I think one of them was wire guided. But yeah, the Fritz X, I don't think the Germans could counter jam it. I just don't think. I mean, I'm not an expert on those, because it took a while for the Americans to figure out the jamming system. But generally speaking, you have more power to jam better from a ship than you would from an aircraft. It would just be, frequency hopping or changing frequencies used, because, you can try to jam everything, but, that isn't necessarily realistic to truly jam everything. All these guys here have taken forever. Yeah, they did hold out for a while, but this seems ridiculous. Hey, Hoffman, how you doing? Okay, the Fritz X was wire guided. Okay, so that's maybe what I'm thinking, because I do think, yes, I've watched documentaries on this stuff. I just don't remember everything. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm doing quite well. And thanks for being here. I do appreciate that. Okay, guys, you keep moving, you keep moving, you keep moving. Another Jaeger division shattering. They're good. And the Jaeger divisions are good. They're good to build. I'm not upset with most of my design choices here for some of these. Okay, there's one actually already here. It's that I'm having them attack into these swamps forever, and the Soviets are able to god-awfully defend here in the swamps. Okay, installation security, which, okay, we've maxed that out. That will reduce some of the event raid effects that the British can have. Okay. I'm going to get these guys going, and they should be really good at killing ships and start building them, or killing transports and avoiding being something. You see, like getting like this, invasion tactics, amphibious invasion speed. The faster you can get them off the ship and get them landing, the better. Okay, good. They're pushed there. Okay, we've gotten a lot of forces back reinforced up. Do we have any new divisions out? No, we got more torpedo boats. Okay. Okay, so the Fritz X was radio. Yeah, I don't know. I don't keep all of that. I do, though. I do think some of them were wire guided or something. but I don't know specifically the Fritz X, and I will take you guys' words on that. Yeah, beam slam. I do think there was one. Obviously, the range is limited a bit more, and the whole, you know, all you really need to do in World War II terms is whether it's a glide bomb that's, a guided glide bomb, or where the Fritz X was actually a rocket. Either way, all you really need to do is be able to get far enough away from the ship to be able to launch effectively, and be able to dodge, move around, whatever, and not get shot out of the air. You don't have to, you got to get a lot closer if you got to drop a bomb and hit a ship. And so you can be, not too close, but not so far away that you can't unspool a very light wire out that can have, half a kilometer's range or something like that, and be able to put in a significant, charge explosive device into the ship to either take it out or do very serious damage to it. These guys are pushing up to close that. Radio to counter the jamming tactic. It become okay. So that's how they did it. Okay, Hoffman. So they switched over from radio to. So they're both right, because I vaguely remember. I watched a lot of documentaries in my life, and I remember, when I'm watching them, yeah, all makes sense, and I'm remembering that. But a year, 10 years later, I don't remember it all. Either that or I'm just getting old. Because at the time, okay, good. Finally, these guys are in. Now they have. Why are they so slow? Current fuel is okay. What the hell? Okay, SS Kiddo, Shatterdam, major defeat. Mario pull 1, good. Okay, we're slowly taking those down. Infantry division shattered. Okay, why are you having so... insufficient fuel? Why do we have insufficient fuel 10%? We got fuel, it's right here. Is this some sort of effect? Ah. I'm gonna save this. Just be careful here. Let's look. Strategic effects. Okay. I may need to remove something here. Naval oil requirements, crude oil down. Wolf of 89, 4-year plan, yeah. Just going down through this, I'll look at the chat. I see some of you guys posting something. Naval build speed. Propaganda fails. Money shortage imminent. Okay, well, we're going to cheat in. Okay, so I guess it isn't. Let me just check out the speed here. Oh, come on. Okay, well, no. Okay, so for some reason it just has registered. It doesn't have. It's not an effect. It just registered this unit as having insufficient fuel. So we'll maybe give it a day or two, and we'll see what it's doing. Hello, IP. I'm over half a century old. So I'm over 50. Nah, not really an old time lord. That'd be cool. See, I was really actually born in 1745. No, wait a minute. I remember 1745. So I must have been born before then. Yeah, been around a long time. Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm more than half a century old. So maybe I'm more than two and a half centuries old, but I'm at least as old I'm over half a century old. Not just half a century. I am older than half a century old, but maybe super older than I don't know. Okay, yeah. Bad knees are not fun, I'm sure. So yeah, how much is old age that I'm forgetting things, or how much is it just, hey, that was 30 years ago I saw that documentary on the Fritz X. And that'd be something like I saw in my 20s. So yeah, keep moving, everybody. Keep moving. I know there's fighting still to be done back there, but keep moving. Okay. Keep moving east. Just at least get up to there. Ah, yes. I don't remember that story when it was happening. I was quite young then, maybe. Yeah, Beam Slam. We're close to the same age, but not the same age. Do you have a full-time job? No, I don't have a full-time job other than YouTube and other things. Okay, you joined that attack. Let's push that, put that to bed. So yeah, YouTube is what I do. I've had jobs until fairly recently. It's been more than a year, but yeah. Done a lot of different things. Okay, you guys are pushing there. Let's see, where do we push? I think we're going to continue our sort of northern push trend with you. You were with Napoleon in Egypt, but that's another story. Yeah, okay. Oh, good. Have a good lunch. Oh, well, the government, I don't know what government would want to hire me. I'm not woke enough for the modern world. Okay, what? Well, how long do we let them set there? Becomes the question. Okay, here's sort of the situation here. Either we attack here. Now that we're defending, but either we attack here or we allow them, or we have to seal off, meaning have forces all the way around. And we can see here, this has been, look at all these forces are being tied up for right now for I think 2 divisions that are left, and only one of them is fighting at the moment. So that's about ready to go, but there was a lot more. You know, is how much do we use to seal them up, or do we try to push now for here? Now I am trying to seal this off here, and as you can see, I'm coming up around here. I'm trying to seal off the Pripet marshes and then go in here. Here we have some sort of disorganized forces that we are pushing here. Obviously we're in the swamp fighting out. This is going to be a mess in here. We'll see what we can do. So that's just sort of it. Yeah, well, we are isolating them. We are attacking them. We're doing both. It just varies. Some more successfully than others. We've won there. We're winning down here. Okay, they're defending. They're attacking up there. They're trying to disrupt. Okay, see him. Okay, he's getting a little, still getting organized up. Okay, yeah. Okay, continue to get organized. You're beat pretty hard. They're pushing that way. They're defending. Yeah, hopefully they'll get up through that. Okay, now do we have still at this? I don't know what, because you have fuel. This province has fuel, has supplies. Get better organized. Well, I'll keep pushing on these HQs and other units. We may take Bantume from the landward side, which would be just fine with me. Okay, you come up this way. We have a, especially once they get there, we'll have a decent screen of forces to hold here. We still have plenty of oil, plenty of rare materials, and of course, positive steel and coal. That's very good. Yeah, well, we are to some degree bypassing and surrounding. Well, guys, yeah, push there. Well, how are we doing up here? I keep forgetting about up here. Okay. Good, they're defending there. Pushed out a little on their own, but okay. What are they attacking here? Okay, just a garrison unit right now. Advanced training centers advance. Does that mean advanced training centers move forward? Forward training centers. Okay, there we go. So we maxed out on that. Which allows what conf group A it said. is here. Okay, so we can start doing this now. So various support units get better organization and combined arms. Good. So we'll do that immediately. Naval HQs advance. What is our year date on that? And we will let that continue. And let's fire the event for that. Sometimes these give sort of a bit more. Okay, forming Commander Admiral Schwarzmeer and Deutsches Marine Commando Nord Africa. Okay, so let's come down to the bottom of, there we go. That there. Well, let's see if we can just attach. That's the closest higher there. This fleet command that's up here. I don't care about that. Okay, sort of the Mediterranean. Marine Commando Sud over here. And don't know why. I mean, I don't know if this is historical or not that it's in Bulgaria. But okay. Didn't we also have North Africa here somewhere? Ah, yes, it's here too. Okay, so they're both here. Deutsches Marine Commando. No, that isn't North Africa. Don't see that. Okay. U.S. combat groups were those adopted from seeing conf groupes, or were they developed independently? Well, the regimental combat group is what I think you're talking about, and they're different things. A conf group, at least this is my understanding of how it works. The conf group, the battle group, for the Germans is an ad hoc formation, meaning it is it's not like a pre-planned specialty group. Obviously, you can call anything a battle group, but the way I understand the term to be used is sort of like and you can find this, and sometimes they will be, say, take a standard division, and you got Major Fast over there, and he knows how to move units fast, and so you got Major Fast. So you give him, and maybe he's a reconnaissance major. You know, he has. I think they were still sort of using, bright yellow cavalry piping for the reconnaissance, but as their Waffenverband, the color on their unit. So maybe he's a reconnaissance guy. So he has a reconnaissance troops under his command. But okay, hey, we'll just take, that platoon of tanks, regular frontline tanks. We'll give the platoon to him because this is maybe a company command. He's a company major or whatever. Well, sort of a captain, but he has a company under his reconnaissance company at his command. We'll give him a platoon of tanks. Oh yeah, those the grills, the sort of like the Martyr 2s, or the 150 millimeter. The 150 millimeter guns. There's two different basic models of them that are put on top of the Czech 38Ts, the infantry guns, the sort of heavy, the Schwer infantry Geschütz, the SIGs. Put on those. Yeah, we'll give you a battery of those, like 2 or 3 or whatever. We'll give you those. There's this other platoon of bicycle troops. We'll give you that, and we'll get, just sort of like within a division, but give you all this stuff, and then put it under Major Fast, and he's going to go circle around and do this, flank the enemy out. And so that's, within a division, a conf group, a battle group. It's ad hoc. After the task is done, and he's going to go up and take the bridge that aerial reconnaissance says is still intact, where the German or the Soviets have blown all the other bridges. So he's going to race around and get that bridge. Once that task is over, he's still in command of his company or whatever, but all the rest of those forces, they go back to their parent organization. Also, famously, a lot of times, Conf Group A were sort of emergency call-ups. Oh, yeah, Hungary just switched sides. or Italy just switched sides, or there's a new landing somewhere, or something's happened, an emergency happened, and so Major Ready, or no, let's say Brigadier General, low-ranking General Ready, he's ready. And he's known to be ready, and so he's ready. So we're going to give that Luftwaffe flak unit, that SS, shoot him in the field unit over there. That Einsatzkommando group. They're just guys that normally just shoot innocent civilians. We'll give them that SS unit there, and you have this supply unit over here. We'll give you the supply unit. Now they may have trucks, so they get to move that flak unit or the SS shoot 'em up unit around, but they also have rifles and whatnot, so they're going to be a bit of combat soldiers, because there's also manpower involved in the supply unit. And so and you're going to sort of like get from different branches of service. There's this a marine depot unit somewhere, a naval depot unit. Okay, they've all got basic, all those naval soldiers. They've all got naval personnel. They all have basic rifle training, and they got some rifles of some sort, whether they're leftover World War I stuff or captured items, or maybe new manufactured German rifles. I don't know, but so they're they sort of know how to shoot and point a gun, and they, this is an emergency. So you're getting all kinds of forces together as a conf group. And so it can be a very balanced organization, or it can be a very unbalanced organization. And you go in and you rush in and you deal with the situation. That is my understanding of conf group in the German term, victory. Now, where the regimental combat groups, as I think you're sort of referring to, that is a doctrinal, the conf groups are sort of a doctrine, but that's sort of a doctrinal subdivision of a division that is semi-standardized. Not trying to be as big as a brigade, because within the division, but trying to set up a coherent, longer standing force that is on a specific sort of, and I don't know where the table of organization would be, but instead of keeping all of the artillery, and again, to go back to explain how it is, and it works to some degree or another in all of these armies this way, to some degree, and it changes. And I'll use going back to Germany to illustrate. The artillery, they control certain units. The artillery high command controls artillery units and their support units. Now, some artillery units are sort of like core asset units, but a bunch of artillery units are permanently assigned to divisions. But the artillery sort of more or less, the artillery used within it, deals with the promotion of, officers within it. It's sort of its own club, but they're sort of permanently, at least for the duration of the war, assigned to divisions. Well, they were coming out with a new updated version on the Panzer IV chassis, and initially using the L48 gun, but they eventually go to the L71 gun, or the L70. Which is the same gun that's in the, it's sort of the ground, the name's basically the same gun in the Panther. The artillery goes, yeah, great, we want that. That's going to be better than the Stugs. And the armor forces, no, we want that. Because they're tank killers. They're not, are there going to be the Stugs? Obviously Stugs end up being massive tank killers, but the Stugs are set up as mobile artillery to assault, fortifications, field fortifications. They're under the artillery. The tank group is going, no, they should be part of the armored force, not part of the artillery, but part of the armored force, and they should be given to us. So they should be Jagdpanzers. The artillery wants them to be called Stugs. The armored force wants to be called Jagdpanzers. Because if they're called Stugs, they're going to be more or less under the command and building and setting up and priorities of the artillery. They're going to be called Jagdpanzers. They're going to be under the Panzer thing, which eventually Guderian is sort of the inspector of the Panzer. He's no longer given, because he's no longer trusted by Hitler because Guderian always wants to retreat, Hitler, was talking about earlier. Not that he always wants to retreat, but he wants to retreat when it's good to retreat and counterattack when it's good to counterattack. Hitler no longer trusts Guderian because he's willing to retreat. But he knows he's got a brilliant officer there, so he puts him in charge. And Guderian works rather well with Speer in trying to rationalize armored production. Though somehow trickery is played that he doesn't get command or control of heavy armor production because he wants to stop the heavy production tanks, and Hitler sort of wants the heavy production tanks to happen. And well, no, he's just in charge of panzers. He's not in charge of heavy panzers, right, Mein Führer? And Hitler goes, yeah, that's right, because all he hears is let's stop making heavy panzers from Guderian. And where is event forming? I guess we don't really get something called Deutsches Marine Kommando North Africa. I guess it's just Deutsches Marine Kommando is now attached to. Well, wait a minute. I don't know. Is that one of these here that I'm just misreading? I don't know. Well, never mind. So they're under their own departments. So that is sort of the way it is in the United States as well, in the Army. And so the artillery regiment, I think it's called a regiment, in a U.S. division, is sort of under the care and feeding of the artillery. Well, yeah, good, nice, but what the U.S. wants to do is, and they don't want to disrupt that system, but what they want to do is make a more direct commands within themselves. So instead of a particular, we'll call him a regimental commander, wanting to have artillery support, instead of him calling up the divisional HQ, and the divisional HQ calls up the artillery to tell the artillery where to shoot their guns. So instead of having that in the command loop, I need artillery here, I've got to call them, they've got to call them, and then the guns fire. Well, let's just put a norm, and it's normally set up as a standardized size regimental combat team, and I don't have the order of battle in my head right now to explain it, but a regimental size unit and supporting arms, but it's well defined as a what it's supposed to be size wise. Now they can switch out components, but generally speaking they try to keep them the same. So the let's say artillery company commander is, because there's several, in the battalion or the regiment, there's several companies, batteries, however they're called. A particular one is always working with this regimental commander. So instead of one week he's working with Bob and next week he's working with Sam, no, it's always Bob is working with the regimental commander from the artillery. So it's the same guy. So whether they get along friendly like well or not, but they're at least knowing each other, how each other works well. And so that is sort of how it's designed with the Americans. So it's not the sort of extemporaneous Kampfgruppe of the Germans. At least that's how I'm interpreting all this. And I hope that isn't too much information for what you were asking. Plugging the holes in the line and putting out fires. Yeah, that was Fast Heinz. Yeah, well, that's Model becomes General Model, Field Marshal Model, becomes sort of the fireman that's noted for that in later in the wars. Industrial complex is a big. Well, to some degree they all are Hoffman, but Germany has so many problems. One, the Gauleiters have immense amount of powers in their Gaus. And that's never fully under control. Speer is constantly fighting the Gauleiters, because they all want to protect their. And it's not necessarily that they're. In some cases, they are very corrupt, but in other ones, they're very ideological national socialist, and they're not in a financial sense or whatever corrupt. Some of these guys are some of these guys are just opportunists. Not that they disagree with the Nazi ideology, but they're just opportunists. Others are, firebrand, vehement, believing in the ideology, and true believers. They're doing things because of true belief, not because of it makes sense, just true belief, and it varies. But they're still little sort of, they control locally their Gaus very, very well. Speer is always fighting this. And a good sort of example, probably around this time, 42, 43. There's basically an edict comes down sort of from high up in I don't know whether it's specifically from Hitler, but I think Hitler signs it to stop all horse racing in Germany, and so the horses, the horse racing setup, all that are to be turned over for army use. So they get to go be soldiers' horses or whatever. Well, Alte Kameraden, I'm sure I'm butchering it, but old comrade, Christian Weber, who is, you'll see him in Third Reich events. He's an SS officer, leader, but an old comrade of Hitler's, from the old days, the early days, the 20s. And he runs a lot of Munich. He isn't the Gauleiter down there, but he sort of runs a lot of Munich. And he is in charge of the SS Ritter program, the riding schools and training for the SS down there. And he's a very, very evil and very, very corrupt guy, personally corrupt. Mostly, I don't know how much he gets kickbacks from companies and things like that doing business. I'm sure he does. I'm not sure, but I believe he does. But I know he also gets a lot of confiscated property from Jewish people and others, and particularly going in and in some of the days, literally taking his people in and going in and confiscating buildings and homes and their possessions while the Jews were still in them, rich ones, fairly, before the war starting. Very, very corrupt guy. But he's sort of a very big deal in Munich. Well, he sets up and runs the Brown Derby, which is a annual horse racing event, and it happens at the same time that the big Nazi celebrations are going on annually down in Munich, the sort of beer drinking and topless women events, and that's very real, going on down there annually. And he's a big promoter of all this. Well, he appeals to sort of Hitler to get his Munich major Munich horse racing organization. That's not just a track, but it's all the breeding horses and all those horses, to keep running races. So they keep getting to make sure they get proper food for the horses, instead of going to horses out in the field, and keeping them up to good strength, and keep running horse races until basically the end, or whatever practical end there is for the Nazis and the horse racing community in Munich. So he has enough power, enough influence with Hitler to keep his horse racing, his Brown Derby, continuing to run even though the war is going on. And so there's a lot, that's just an example of how these different power organizations that are around Germany are running. And we're talking about the military industrial complex. So the SS are, there's Alaric porcelain. Really nice, high-quality porcelain. It goes back at least into the 18th century, maybe older than that. Well, in the 30s, Himmler buys the company, moves the company to or moves the factory to. Why am I blanking on the name? The one of the major concentration camps in Germany. The famous one. Not so much. I mean, they did work people to death, but it's not a death camp. I mean, lots of people died there. I'm sure. I know. I'm blanking on it, but it's a big SS complex there. That's part of. I just blank on these names sometimes. And moves it there along with all of the professional makers. Well, yeah, but what's the big? As soon as I hear it, does it start with an N? It's a. It's down, I think, down here in the south of Germany. No, not Bergen-Belsen. No, it's not so much a death camp. It's, I mean, the people die, but they don't have the death factories there, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of the famous early ones. Early. Hey, Aurora. How went the advances today? Well, we're currently there talking about things. Let me save this again. Well, and so they moved the Alaric porcelain there. Ravensbrück. No. What? It's in Germany proper, not in any of the occupied territories. The major where they trained the SS female camp is there. Just training SS women. A major complex. Dachau. That's it. Sorry. Dachau. Yes, Dachau. That's it. Thank you, Hoffman. Yeah, Dachau. Dachau has, a concentration camp, and yes, people are died there, but I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but compared to like Bergen-Belsen and a lot of the others, I don't think it is, primarily designed as a, factory death camp. I may be wrong about that. I mean, it's not a pleasant place, and lots of people died there. Lots of people, were killed there. But I think it's because Dachau starts out as a camp to. It was one of the very early camps in 1933 when the Nazis come to power. That they're rounding up primarily at that time communists and others. This is the enabling acts. After the Reichstag fire, you notice how people complain about we need these new laws because they attacked our capital. We got to go after these people who attacked our capital. An insurrection at the capital. Capital insurrection, terrible. When the Democrats go in there and occupy it, which they did just a few months earlier. Oh, well, it's the annex building they occupied with signs and whatever, and did about as much damage. Well, they didn't break any windows, but internally they did about as much damage as when people protesting elections on January 6th did. I don't know that they were all Republicans because there's a lot of anti-establishment types were involved in them. I'm not saying left-wing, I'm just saying anti-establishment types that wouldn't call themselves Republicans that stormed the Capitol, that insurrection. That's sounding a lot of rhetoric like around the enabling acts, around the burning of the Reichstag. So please watch your modern world act like they were acting, for political opponents at first. And it was run by the SA, but it was run terribly badly. Not just in their brutality levels, which it was that, but partially it was just random brutality at the time and not brutality for, as they would see it, a particular reason, but also just ineptly run. And so it was taken away from the SA and given over to the SS, particularly Dachau was. And maybe several of the others. But Dachau is a big SS complex. And some of it is definitely, concentration camps. Not trying to make light of that. But there's now often maybe using concentration camp workers, and that's one of the reasons they're said that it was one of the major manufacturing points for like many of the SS cuff titles. But so the SS move Alaric porcelain, and now most of the Alaric porcelain that continues to be made. Now I don't know, at some point like in 42 or 43 they might stop making Alaric porcelain, but for quite a while it's run by the SS as a profitable business to help fund the SS. I really don't think Himmler was money personally corrupt like Goering was, but he is institutionally corrupt, of course, and evil. We're not trying to, none of this is saying that these people are all right. They're evil. But it's run as a business, and it continues to sell its sort of classical porcelain type items, and a lot of the ones made during that tenure of the company are sort of collectible because of that. But they did make some stuff that is, SS related, but most of it is just sort of, 18th century style porcelain stuff. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that going on, but the SS sets up their own rocket factory. The German army uses rockets that are big, short, and bulbous, that are very expensive to make, and they don't use any fins on them, but they are spin like a bullet, spin stabilized. Good rockets, but expensive. The SS decided, after looking at the Soviet rockets, to make a Soviet-style one. So the SS are using different rockets than the regular army. They set up their own factory to run it. So there's SS state, there's Gauleiters protecting their stuff, there's all this kind of stuff if we're talking about the military-industrial complex. It is, all this various levels of stuff that really make a mess. And the popular day myth that Nazi Germany was a well-organized state is entirely due, in my opinion, you can disagree if you want, but entirely due to Star Trek, and that one Star Trek episode where somebody tries to introduce a good version of Nazis on some planet, and where Spock is wearing the helmet to hide his ears and going around, I did this because it was the most well organized society in America, or not America, in human history. No, Nazi organization was chaotic. Hitler liked it that way. Hitler believed in conflict and chaos to make things better, make competition. Yes, exactly, David Flashing. Multiple depots competing for resources and not well planned. Fascism wants a well-planned society. National Socialism doesn't. Now, it doesn't want what they see as the exploitation of capitalism, either capitalism as in, there's sort of two ways the word is used back then. One is, like we would think of it, as free market capitalism. The other is the idea that often someone with a long lineage, but someone owns capital, the means of production, and whether it's a factory or a force that they, use to get lumber or a mine or whatever, the capitalist, not, the capitalist as in the person who owns the capital, who may not want capitalism because they want, state control or market control, but the guys who own the capital as an exploiting either the worker or seen as exploiting society. The National Socialists want to tame the exploitation element of the capitalist individuals, and Hitler likes competition. He does not want to see a single boot manufacturer or shoe manufacturer for Germany. Hitler doesn't want to see that. That is against his idea. He wants different shoe manufacturers, shoes, boots. I just think boots because of soldiers, but shoes or boots. He wants different ones, and he wants them to compete. But he doesn't want them to exploit the worker. He doesn't want them to, harm what he sees as German society, is to make decisions that are negative to the German society as he sees them. So he is a socialist. Now, he's not a Marxist socialist. He is not a leveling socialist in which everything should be equal. But he is a socialist in which he believes the means of production belong ultimately collectively to the German people. And it is fine that either one or a group of them own temporarily a means of production, so long as that means of production continues to benefit the collective whole. So yeah, you can have somebody who's rich and has a private plane, has a few private Mercedes. Hitler's not against that idea. So long as all the workers are well paid, so long as the major decisions by that company are, say, not to shut down a factory, put German workers out, and move the factory overseas and then import the goods to Germany. Or, hey, buy German leather. So long as German leather is available for your shoes, don't buy cheaper American or Dutch, from the colonies or something leather. Now, if they didn't have the problem with international exchange, it's not the idea that you couldn't import leather. I mean, they have the problem with international exchange, so there's that problem. But if they didn't have that problem ideologically, Hitler's not against the idea that they're importing leather, so long as you're already buying all the German leather because you're slaughtering cattle anyways to feed the people. And you can even have pig leather is actually, I have a Scottish targe, a shield that's covered in really nice pig leather, so you can have leather from pigs, and it doesn't have to be bovine cattle leather. But, so long as you're buying and utilizing German leather to its normal extent, and if you need more, sure, you could import some in theory, because that would benefit the German people. But you don't stop buying German, maybe more expensive leather, if you can get cheaper leather from, somebody's colonial manufacturing somewhere else outside of Germany. So he's against the sort of free market. He's both against capitalists exploiting, the guys who own the capital, exploiting people, either whether it's their workers or the market by, exploitative measures. I don't know, like moving all of your production to China, kind of thing. So he's against that type of them, but he's also against free market capitalism in that he doesn't want competition, say, from foreign manufacturers. He also doesn't want the competition to the point that you're competing with it, that you're driving down the price, so you have to drive down the wages, so you drive down everything, so it disrupts society. He doesn't want the major companies to go out of business. That would hurt, to have winners and losers, ultimate winners and losers. That you see in free market capitalism. He's not for free market capitalism either. People often mistake wartime economy. Absolutely. See, they get, as the war goes on, Nazi Germany starts looking more and more like the ideal of fascism in a centrally planned economy. In all of my readings, and yes, there's the Goering 4-year plan, but that plan wasn't planning out the economy. That plan was to get Germany ready to go to war and trying to make sure certain natural resources, I forget one of the rare earth minerals there's a big deposit in Germany of this, huge deposit of it, we could have it. And I forget, and when I was making theory, I was looking into some of this stuff. Oh yeah, we could do it, and it would barely be profitable. All the companies that normally looked at each other and go, no, we don't want to do this. It costs too much. We already have some of these, because it was a huge deposit, but it was intermixed with just other, earth, whatever, so separate, you have to take a lot of refining, and we can buy it cheaper from overseas. Well, Goering couldn't, and Hitler couldn't just go, oh yeah, but in 3 years, we're going to go to war with these people, so you better start exploiting this resource now. You couldn't tell people that because it would get out to, France and Britain, that they're going to go to war with them, likely. So they looked at this one deposit, and yeah, we could make money eventually on it. It could be run profitably, but it would take a long time for the investment of setting up the machinery to, extract out this rare earth mineral. It wasn't iron or coal or whatever. It was something else. I forget. It's something they also got out of sort of Morocco area. I forget what it was. But, set up the mining equipment to set up the refining equipment, and so your return on investment, setting it up is going to be years down the road, and who knows what's going to be happening, 10 years down the road, to where you can then start the slight profit margin from operation will start paying off its investment. So we don't want to make that. So this is what the Goering 4-year plan, and particularly Reichswerks Hermann Goering, which is not owned by Hermann Goering but named after him. He sort of controls it, but in a political sense, sets up the binding of this, because he knows that Germany's going to need this for the war industry, and it can be done. So Hitler doesn't want that type of, they're doing that type of stuff, but Hitler doesn't want a planned economy like the fascists or the communists want to do. He wants a competing, a dynamic economy, and it's only the war that pushes it into a more centrally planned economy. Because Hitler isn't, talked about the problems of the Gauleiters before. Hitler isn't upset with that in either a political or a military sense, because there's often, you can look at the book, brilliant book, Hitler's Compromises, that talks about a lot of the stuff. It's the title of the book. And it talks about the internal running of Germany, not its exploitation of other neighbors, but the internal running of Germany. And how, whether it was planned from the top or just one of the Gauleiters would introduce a measure like to close all Christian schools in his Gau, and see what the reaction would be. And sometimes there was massive reaction, protests, and so they would, sorry, and because the people would appeal, Hitler, save us, our Gauleiter's doing something stupid. And if Hitler, and of course they knew about this stuff, if Hitler wanted to take notice, then yeah, Gauleiter Schmutt over there, yeah, no, you did something wrong. No, keep those Christian schools open. So if they got enough pushback, they would step back. This is how Hitler dealt with Germany, not how Hitler's dealing with other parts of the world that he's taking over that may be becoming parts of Germany, but he's talking core parts of Germany. He's always willing to step back when he get enough pushback. So, and I could illustrate a few more of these, but I won't go into them right now. So he's always willing to push back. But if, say, closing all the Christian schools, hardly anybody notices, well, then once that sort of happens in that Gau, they might try it in a second Gau, and if nobody really sort of complains much, well, then they'll close all the Christian schools in Germany. So it's sort of a test case. They sort of do this around. And it's not just with schools, it's with anything. They test it in a Gau here or there, whether it's, high up telling a Gauleiter to do a particular thing, or whether the Gauleiter is just generally following the Nazi kind of plan and takes a step, and the whole system, the SS that sort of monitors stuff, all sort of watch the reaction to this thing, and because they don't want like competition in education, they want to control education. That's a different matter, but so they're watching this, and whether this goes with a business regulation or whatever, and if there's too many problems with it, Hitler will always be seen as the guy who comes in and solves the problem, which he may have created, but never do it in his, never do it as he's doing it. Just the Gauleiter is doing it experimentally, definitely sometimes under Hitler's command, but not always. So we're not always sure about all this stuff because we don't have all the internal communications, but he always shows up whenever there's a problem, and whether he shows up or just sends a commandment down from the top and it's publicly announced, and everybody's happy because Hitler solves a problem. This is how he gets a lot of popular press. Yeah, well, communism is the communal owns of the means of production, if you will, with a very leveling, meaning every equal outcome. Hitler's not concerned about equal outcome. Hitler's concerned about closing down, and they do close down all the slums inside of Germany. And they're god-awful, some of them, during the Weimar years. But part of the way he's closing down the slums is building new housing for German peoples. Now, you've got to be the right type of peoples to move into these houses. You don't get to be the ones, with the yellow stars. And whatnot, and other sort of groups. But yeah, and so he is definitely a socialist, but not a Marxist, not a leveling socialist, not a, and And this is where socialism of a Marxist or communist nature is. They believe the government should run the factories. Hitler is smart enough to realize the government should not run the factories. The government may set priorities, may set production ideas, may set goals, may have, the DAF, the Deutsches Arbeitersfront, the German Workers' Front, have representatives in there to make sure that safe working conditions, decent pay, make sure, decent work hours for the workers. So the government's definitely interfering. And these are not seen, the DAF may have started out and sort of look like a party organization, but they in essence are become a government. The party and the government become, and its institutions are slowly merged. The party and the government are meant to be the same thing. They're not meant to have a Nazi party and a government sitting side by side. They're meant to be one and the same. And it's just Hitler's incrementalism and not wanting to destroy an institution that's already there. He's not a revolutionary in the sense that he wants to come in and fire all of the bureaucrats in a particular, for the railway or something like that. He just wants to have them there and have National Socialist people moved in and National Socialize the system so the talents continue to be used and the good elements, as he would see it, continue to be practiced, but now in the National Socialist vein. And National Socialists will learn about railway management or whatever and try to do that. And you can see a TIK video about how railway management didn't necessarily go very well. One of his more recent videos. I watched some of his stuff. Less than half, I'm sure. I've not watched, done a lot of stuff on Stalingrad. I watched some of his stuff. He's very good. I don't disagree with his historical facts as he presents them, but I do disagree it may be more of a degrees, but disagree how impactful some of the stuff is versus what he thinks. So I like his stuff. Don't 100% agree. So, he wants that kind of world. It's different than fascism. It's fascistic in sort of state control, that kind of thing. Yes. That allows what generally passes for private ownership. Yes. It's not, fascism is not a leveling ideology. It is a corporatist ideology, not corporatist as we might think of it, like as in the business corporation. It definitely wants to deal with business, but it's a corporatist as in the body politic of the nation ideology. So both are corporatist ideologies in that sense, but their practices and their theories are different from each other. Putin does the same stuff. When something goes wrong, he can blame the local administrator. And okay, very interesting, Beam Slam. I didn't know that particularly about Putin, but that does make sense. And a tiny elite. Absolutely, David. See, I think the idea of communism, of leveling, because, fairness and equality of outcome are not the same thing. And like I know I've illustrated this before, said it. Do we all deserve to have equal viewership on YouTube channels? Should it be allowed that PewDiePie has more viewers than I have? Shouldn't we all have equal outcome? Because even if he paid us all equally from YouTube, he would have more influence in society. And who plays what games because he has more viewers. So shouldn't we all have equal viewership on YouTube? And shouldn't you all be able to start a YouTube channel and have equal viewership? No, that is wrong. That in of itself is wrong. It's not just wrong as in practice because it doesn't work, but it is wrong and it is evil. My gun collection can be better than your gun collection. We don't all have to have an equal gun collection or stamp collection or whatever it may be, comic book collection. And so the idea is not that there can't be somebody who owns 10 $1 million valued collectible guns and other people don't have that, so long as everybody has a gun. and that kind of thing. It's sort of like, hey, as long as everybody has food, housing, shelter, it's fine that somebody has a mansion. As long as everybody has what we consider, and they're still going to maybe be poor, but a decent standard of living. There is a difference between, and so the idea of communism, that it is all communal and that we all have an equal outcome, except for, like you say, the tiny elite, is trashing my favorite time of the day. Sorry. And so, yeah, I've gotten into this. But yeah, so even the theory of communism is evil. It's not. Fairness is different than equality of outcome. Equality before the law, anybody gets to sit anywhere on the bus they can, not like, black people in the back or whatever. Everybody's, that's, equal before the law, equal treatment, based on what you're paying for in a restaurant. So are you sitting in the private dining room in the back, or are you sitting in a cramped counter somewhere because you're not tipping as well or eating as well, but you're all able to get food? So yeah. Well, I think we need to end this episode here. And I want to thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, tell me why you think communism is good. We can laugh and point at you once you do, but yeah, you can do so. Thanks, everyone.